Welcome to 1991 Movie Rewind, a podcast where we watch and review every movie released in 1991, from the all-time greatest classics to the critically panned and everything in between. We will rediscover forgotten fan favorites and uncover hidden gems as we explore the depths of direct-to-video. Join us in our celebration of the fun, unique, and diverse films of this highly underrated year. This week, we watched The Unborn. In The Unborn, a married couple have been trying to have a baby for 5 years with no success. At the recommendation of a coworker, they go to a fertility clinic and have an in-vitro fertilization performed. As the baby continues to grow, the mother, played by Brooke Adams, experiences strange sensations and exhibits unexplained behavior. After discussing her troubles with other patients, she learns that she's not the only one. Screenplay by Brancato and Michael Ferris, both credited under the pseudonym Henry Dominic, directed by Rodman Flender, and released on March 29th, 1991. Have you seen The Unborn before?
No, I haven't.
Me either. I've seen the box a lot.
Okay.
It's the one that we watched the VHS copy. And we're sad to say that there are no coming attractions in this one either. This is like the second VHS in a row, Popcorn being the most recent, where there's no previews, no additional promotional material, so we don't, that's part of the fun of having physical media, is to have that kind of stuff to talk about too, and we don't get to. But we watched a 2001 re-release of this, which is odd that existed, but it's a Roger Corman classic, and they wanted to brand it as such. So I'm aware of it just because I think it had something of a minor cult following, but I know nothing about it. Going into the movie, though, I found that it was a very, very slow building horror film. Much slower than I would have anticipated.
It was just like a regular movie about a couple trying to have a baby for
half of it.
Like 3/4. I don't even know.
Yeah. And then it gets really crazy near the end.
Yeah.
So,
there should be, I don't know.
I'm sure a lot of that's deliberate. But still.
Like for a horror... Well, okay. Well, actually, no. Because the very first scene is a couple. And, it's... We don't know their names. It's just a couple. And the woman, like the man and the woman, they're like kissing in bed, I guess. And then the woman starts, having maybe contractions. Yeah,
it starts, she's like eating like meat straight out from the fridge. Yeah. Because you see blood dripping outside the fridge, and you're like, oh, what's that blood? And then it pans up, and it's like
and
her
just
eating
her
like an
eating,
entire ham or something like that.
A bloody ham.
And then it cuts to them like
in bed
and he's on top of her or something, and then like her stomach explodes.
Yeah, she starts screaming. Yeah, she starts screaming, and then the guy doesn't even do anything after 2 minutes of her screaming. If someone's screaming, you'd be like, oh, let me get some help. But he's just sitting there like, what are you doing and what's going on? Until to the point where literally the child just escaped from her stomach.
Basically, yeah, they don't show it.
But all of a sudden her stomach is open and there's blood and she's dead.
Yeah,
and then that was that scene.
That was the quote. Him, like, in horror, as covering under the covers.
But then you don't see anything quote scary until an hour and 10 minutes in. I don't after that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like a 90-minute movie, and I think the opening scene is probably there to be say, like, hey, stick with us. Happen. Yeah. There is something happening here. We know it's going to take a while to get there. Mm-hmm. And the part that we get, like the just generic husband and wife dynamic and them having this stuff, it's okay. Like, it's not terrible.
No, I don't hate it. I was just like, when are we gonna get to some exciting stuff? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the two leads, we got Brooke Adams as Virginia, and then her husband is played by Jeff Hayenga. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. Hayenga. Hayenga. They have a good rapport between each other. I think their dynamic is good. You know, they work well together, and they seem like a very natural couple. Very good dialogue overall. But yeah, nothing happens for the most part. You get like these little tiny scenes that are supposed to make you think that something weird is going to happen, but I think the only reason you think that is because you know you're watching a horror movie. You know, like you meet the new age couple who are doing the pregnancy
like,
class.
Yeah, the Lamas, yeah.
Yeah, and you have like this waspy coworkers who keep talking about how hyper intelligent their daughter is.
Yeah, just comparing their lives to theirs, saying how much better they are because they have children that are smart.
Yeah. So like there's these little tiny hints that are dropped.
Yeah.
But nothing really happens until that 2-year-old ends up killing her older brother.
Yeah. But that's
off screen.
Yeah, you don't even see it.
You see the aftermath, but you don't see the actual act of it. It's just those parents come home, the housekeeper is there, or nanny or whatever it is. The lights are all off.
I mean, this couple is. I mean, they're meant to be like fucking assholes.
Yeah.
But it just like they come in. Well, the power is out. I'm assuming because of the little girl.
Yes, because like
she's just hyper intelligent. Like she just turned it off to go kill her brother.
It's like a power surge because like she basically like dumped electronics or like a toaster into the bathtub.
Okay. I thought she turned the light, like she cut the lights, killed her brother,
and so
in the dark.
Yeah, I mean, so instead of like blowing one fuse, it blew the entire house.
The entire house, yeah.
Whatever. But so. And
yeah, so this stupid couple comes in, and their poor nanny / housekeeper is frantic.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, the baby.
Yeah, she's like, the baby. And then this pissed me off is they're like, speak English. It's like she's literally saying the baby.
I think she said a couple words that were in Spanish, like
like, oh, ay Dios mío, whatever. Yeah. But I was like, shut up. But then, and they think, something's wrong with the little girl, but then they see their son in a bathtub dead.
Yep. And then the little girl's in the corner just giggling to herself. Yeah, they ask the housekeeper, well, what happened? And she's like, the baby did this. Yeah.
And then that was that scene, though.
That was it, yeah. And then like it basically cuts to the funeral, and then the little 2-year-old baby murderer comes up to Virginia, who is now like showing and visibly pregnant for however many months it's been, and just starts like creepily rubbing her stomach at the funeral.
That scene is creepy to me. If a creepy child came up to me and started touching me, I'd be like, leave me alone forever, thank you.
Yeah, like I appreciate the dialogue in most of the scenes, but that scene needed like a little bit of dialogue. Like Virginia should have been like saying something, but instead she just kind of like looks at her.
She just looks at her like, she gives her I don't want to say the baby because she's the toddler.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's a 2-year-old or something like that. Is what
the
they
toddler
kept saying.
A look, and then but that was the end of that scene.
Yeah.
There's no talking, but I mean they're trying to do. They're implying, that you're gonna have a killer baby. Yeah, because she's probably like. I mean, no, that family didn't say how their son died. I'm assuming, like they didn't go about saying, "Oh, my 2-year-old daughter killed my 9-year-old son," or how.
Oh no, yeah, they probably would have played it off as an accident, but we never hear a word from the family. That's the last we hear of
the whatevers.
Yeah, whatevers. DeWitts.
The whatevers. Yeah, the DeWitts.
Whatever.
Yeah, but it makes you think it's kind of like evil children, like The Omen or whatever.
Yeah,
or
which I haven't seen.
The Bad Seed, or, they have The Good Son. I mean, there's so many,
yeah, for sure.
evil children movies that are way better than this.
I mean, but this one has its moments. It just takes a long time for them to show up. That's the biggest gripe that I have with this movie. So yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff happens, and in the meantime, Beth is, not Beth. Virginia meets characters like Beth at this like Lamaze type class for pregnant women, who all have come from that clinic, as far as we know, including the teachers. There's 2 teachers in the clinic, and they both, they're a couple, and they have also used the doctor's services, Dr. Meyerling's services of fertilization. And so, yeah, like, Virginia gets to talking about things to Beth, and Beth is like, hey, something's really wrong, and everyone has the same rash on their neck, and everyone's, like, experiencing, like, this weird behavior that they don't know about. And so Beth works as a reporter, and she starts to dig in and learns that Dr. Meyerling isn't, like, really a, fully accredited, or he's not like a specialist in this area or some crap. He's like a geneticist and stuff like that. So it gets into like some weird spots. Like they go into some weird 90s directions with like science and mental health stigmas and stuff like that are sort of like peppered in there, which was interesting to see. It's like the fear of like, have you heard of the Human Genome Project? Yeah. Like as if it's like this nefarious thing.
And then
because people didn't know about it back then.
Right, yeah, you also see Virginia reading like a National Enquirer type magazine.
But she's laughing at it.
But it's also just the article she's reading is about like alien babies or whatever. Yeah. She's cracking up over that. So
yeah, it's like whatever the News World Today, the Bat Boy thing that was clearly always meant to be fake, but was very prominent at that time. And they also talk about depression, and Virginia uses that as a reason why, like, I guess legitimate doctors wouldn't believe her or something. I don't fully understand where that was going, but basically she was afraid to talk to people because of her history of depression. And she was afraid her baby was going to catch it because her mother suffered from depression, and that was like a big
But they don't even show any
thing.
of that throughout the movie.
No, not really. I mean, they show abnormal behavior from her, and she has like that depressive episode where they have, like where she destroys her own house. Yeah,
but every other pregnant woman from that clinic had the same lashing out.
Right. But I mean, it factors into the plot just in terms of conversation is what I mean, and she's afraid of not being taken seriously. And I think one of the biggest plot holes in this entire thing is that she doesn't go try to see another legitimate doctor at all.
Yeah, she doesn't get like a second opinion or wants to see another OBGYN or something like that. I don't...
Even when, she learns from Beth that Dr. Marling may not be what he's supposed to be and that he shouldn't necessarily be trusted, she does things like plays that new age music audio cassette that was given to her by Dr. Meyerling to calm down.
And then to take some random pills along with it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there is a scene where she is listening to that music, but then she hears kind of like subliminal messages from him that goes to the fetus, I guess.
Yeah, which you knew was going to be on the tape as soon as she was handed the tape.
Yeah.
Because again, that's another 90s trope, right? Like that's,
Yeah, all this like
this is the
they're
fear
making fun of
90s
like the
parents.
they're making fun of like all this new agey stuff, like crystals, like cuz that's what that couple was. They're doing like the holistic way of
they're presented as, extremely hippie lesbian couple who is, practicing this thing, and so, they have this connection to this doctor, and so they may be sort of nefarious from that perspective too. And so it's very much like this is different, so it's wrong.
Like it's considered kind of like witchcrafty, and it's wrong.
Yeah, exactly. That's sort of the vibe that they're trying to give off.
Still like that satanic panic type of thing.
residuals of that. And there's a lot of talk about, cats are bad for pregnancy and
yeah, there was a
like
whole
that.
thing about like cats and the cat poop is just bad for pregnant women.
And Virginia and the Marshalls have a white cat, so you don't have the black cat at least. So there's all those types of different things, and yeah, like I said, the Human Genome Project and what Beth learns from a call from the doctor that she gets that we see is that her baby, I think the line was that the baby has 51 chromosomes in her baby.
Yeah.
And upon learning that, the doctor's like, well, something like, we don't know what this means. And Beth is like, well, how do you not know what this means? You're a doctor. And she hangs up really angrily. Mm-hmm. And then she just grabs a kitchen knife and stabs herself in the stomach over and over again until she dies, rather than possibly go to the doctor and get treatment or, try to figure out something else or do more tests or whatever it is. And I'm assuming that a lot of that can be explained away by saying the baby's sort of controlling her. But
yeah, I mean,
the baby wouldn't kill itself either.
No.
From what we learn later on in the movie, like they're not self-destructive. So it's this weird thing that it's a weird choice to me.
That scene was weird. It was just like phone call, I'm mad, hang up, knife, stomach, the end.
Yeah.
There was like...
She could have had a bigger role because she was a reporter for a newspaper.
Yeah.
She could have
been more investigative or something.
Yeah.
Gotten to the bottom of it.
They could have worked together because, the next day, Virginia goes to meet Beth at work. Beth doesn't show up because she, Oh, she doesn't kill herself. I'm sorry. She stabs herself into a coma. That's what ends up happening.
Yeah, she doesn't... She's like brain dead, basically. And then we see later on in the movie that she's just used as an incubator for this baby to continue to be born.
Yeah. So I think the only reason she really stabs herself is because they needed a little bit more gore at that point, rather than progressing any sort of like thriller story side of thing. That's the only thing I can think of. So
I'm like, okay, I'm confused. So the DeWitts, they have a child from this doctor, Dr. Meyerling. Mm-hmm. But they don't, like the Mrs. DeWitt, she doesn't talk about her pregnancy being as hard as these women that we're seeing going through. Like, did she get this rash on her and then she start lashing out? And then it seems like all the babies that are born automatically kill the mothers.
Well, it makes it very difficult. Like the bodies basically repel the baby because it's unnatural. It's not like a full human. It's modified genetics, whatever is what they're trying to say.
The DeWitts don't even talk about her pregnancy, unless was it like some surrogate or something? Or I don't even know.
No, it wasn't a surrogate, I don't think. I'd have to rewatch the opening scene, but there is that one scene when they're having dinner, and it's pretty easy to tune it out. Right? Because like you're focusing on their passive-aggressive behavior, their waspiness, their, snide remarks. But I think there probably are a couple lines in there where she says that it was a difficult thing, but it was worth it.
Okay.
Something like that is probably what was said. But yeah, I don't think they go into details of what happened to her. Instead, what we see is like Virginia going to the doctor, Meyerling's office, and basically saying, hey, I had this rash, and him, shrugging it off. It's like, oh yeah, that's normal. These things will happen type of a response. Mm-hmm. And her not getting second opinions or anything. Meanwhile, there's like this B plot of her having a book that's coming out. She's a children's book author.
She's a writer.
And she's going to go on TV to promote it, and the DeWitts have helped her out with that as well. Somehow. I don't know how they know the television people, but they do.
Yeah, they get her a spot to talk about her most recent book, I guess.
And so, yeah, she's been having a lot of trouble. She went through that rampage in her own house, destroying everything, killing stuff.
She unknowingly kills her cat.
Yes, while petting it. She's just staring off into space and is petting it, and then...
You don't see that the killing. It's just all of a sudden you hear the rear, and then she looks down and, blood on cat.
Yeah, and then she's delusional about it. He's like, oh, you're resting, huh? Like, oh, okay, well, let's get to your mouse and we'll wake you up. We'll wake you up.
And then she tears the entire house apart looking for this toy mouse for her cat that's already dead.
But meanwhile, by the way, we should say that Brad is off in New York for a merger, because convenient
lawyer.
Business stuff.
Yeah. And the DeWitts are the husband is like his partner, I guess. Well, they just work together. They work in the same firm.
Exactly.
Because even Brad is like. Brad and Virginia do not really like the DeWitts, but it's just like Brad is like, well, imagine working with him every day.
Yeah, they tolerate him, and they'll take advice when it comes.
Yeah.
I'm sure we've all had people like that we worked with at some point.
But these people are constantly like hanging out. I'm like, I don't hang out with my coworkers like once a week.
No, I don't know, whatever.
I don't know.
It's plot, and they try not to throw too many characters at you, which is good.
It's like, jeez.
But yeah, you kind of wish that, the DeWitts focus so centrally in the early part of the movie. You kind of wish that more would happen to them besides just that, coming home to see their son. Like, I want to see the girl go after the DeWitts too. Like, why not have that be part of it?
Yeah, they could have shown the little girl a little more being, I don't know, evil or whatever.
But, we don't know if that's really the intention, right? Because Dr. Meyerling he's basically trying to build, like, a master race inside of people, right? He's, like, genetically modifying these people...
to be superior beings.
Yeah, to have, like, super smart, super strong baby population that will take over the world. That's his goal. But they don't really say much more than that. So, it may not make sense for that 2-year-old who can't, hold a job yet to kill her parents just because she is physically capable of doing so. So we don't know that part of the lore.
But, when these other women who are pregnant, they are being, I don't know, controlled by the babies. And it's... The one couple, the new agey couple, the pregnant woman, she's killing her partner, and she's just like, I can only love one human being, and it's gonna be my baby now, so I don't love you.
Yeah, so I have to kill you because otherwise there's not enough love for two beings.
Yeah, but
baby, so I have to kill you. Yeah,
Virginia
and that's basically the baby talking.
But Virginia didn't really go through that. She just kind of...
She might not have been far enough along to. Who knows?
I don't even know.
And we don't see if Beth is partnered up with anybody, so we don't get to see that aspect of it. So
yeah, they only showed
showed those three.
Yeah, they only showed the 3 women. So it's Beth and then this, other couple that, the new age couple.
Yeah, you got Gloria Starchild is the character's name, which I don't know if they say that by name, but I don't know. Played by Wendy Hammers, or Wendy Kaminoff as she was known back then. She was a stand-up comic, did just a couple of small TV parts. And then she was partnered up with Kathy Griffin, who played a character named Connie Chicago.
That's so hilarious.
But I don't think they ever said her last name in the movie.
No, it's just
but it's there in the credits.
Their names are hilarious. Yeah, I don't think they said their full names, because I don't remember hearing Connie Chicago.
No, I remember hearing Connie, but not Connie Chicago. So, yeah, Kathy Griffin is there.
Yeah, you have all these people from, like, the Groundlings in this movie. Yeah. Because Lisa Kudrow is also in it, and she is the Dr. Meyerling's receptionist, I guess.
Yeah, she's there for, like, a scene.
Yeah.
And she's given a full name of Louisa Krelm.
So, I wonder if they can pick their own names.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Like Lisa Kudrow was like, I want to be Louisa Krelm.
Right.
And then Kathy Griffin is like, I'm Connie Chicago.
I'm Gloria Starchild. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's funny.
But I don't know. It's just interesting how they have these comedians in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably relatively common for lower budget films. They find people who just want to be in projects, and, local stand-up and improv areas are a good resource for that, Like, get them some random experience. So yeah, there are some deaths and stuff in there, but basically, yeah, the last half hour is when things really start to ramp up a bit more. And it sort of reminded me of that movie, The Brain. Do you remember watching that?
Sorta, yeah.
But basically, like, there's like this brain that's controlling the airwaves, or it's being like pumped out into TV, and it's like, mind controlling a lot of the population and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Except it's, the babies are doing that from within. And so Virginia goes to Dr. Marling's office to confront him. And again, it's weird that she never goes to like a legitimate doctor to try to get a testing or second opinion done or anything like that.
Yeah, none of these women.
And again, like, maybe that's because of that whole depression thing, because they make that as to be like one of the worst things in the world, is that, she has had...
But I feel like Dr. Marling is just kind of like, I don't know, I don't want to say gaslight. I guess gaslighting them. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there could be some manipulative language that happened there. I mean, there is this one point that I wrote down this line because she was asking Dr. Marling back when she thought he was legitimate about, how she had been on antidepressants at certain points in her life and worried because of the genetics of her mother that also suffered it. And basically he said, don't worry, your baby's going to be fine. Quote unquote, there's no madness in your blood. Mm-hmm. Right? So, like, that's how they treat it in 1991. It feels like, Middle Ages talk now. It's like, don't worry, we could leech it right out of you. Same type of vibe. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, that could very well be part of it. But she does try to get an abortion at some point before going to Dr. Marling's for the big confrontation. Right, but she's already,
like, third trimester.
Or at least that's what they say, but she's not, according to her.
Oh.
That was part of the conversation. Is like, you're too far along. You're in your third trimester, and she's like, no, I'm not. That's impossible.
Oh, so is this kind of like the terror within? I guess.
Maybe.
Are these babies?
There could be part of that.
Like, are these babies growing rapidly?
Superhuman.
Like, I mean, they don't really imply that at all.
No.
I don't know.
Other than like maybe because the stomachs burst. I don't know. Like, is that them like growing too fast, too?
And then they just come
strongly
out that way. But it's just... That's why I'm so confused with the DeWitts. So they just had a smooth birth with this child, but like all these other women are having horrible births where they come out through the stomach, or I don't know.
Yeah, unless... Is there any way... Like, I wasn't paying attention, and we were watching a VHS copy, right?
Yeah.
Is there any way that the opening scene was the DeWitts?
But then...
That blonde lady was... It didn't look the same to me, but...
I thought that was just a random couple.
I thought so too, but I mean, just sort of thinking out loud right now. Is there any way that was us watching the DeWitts? But I don't remember their faces well enough, and it's been a couple days now since we've watched it that I can't really fully make the connection.
I mean, so when we were watching it, I thought that, I guess, while watching the movie. But then I was like, but how did she live, the mom?
Oh, stitch her up. I mean, who knows? Like, how did Beth survive her stabbing her own stomach a bunch of times, and the baby survived it too? But they show that.
Okay.
So, I mean, like, movie magic.
But, Beth is, she becomes brain dead. So maybe she, like, hit a freaking artery, or I don't know, causing her to lose blood in the brain, but the baby is fine. They don't explain any of this.
No, they don't explain a lot. They just show that, the baby basically still won that battle.
Yeah.
Or maybe the baby was controlling Beth and knew how to stab in certain spots so that it would be fine and get rid of her, who was going to...
They literally don't explain anything besides that this doctor wants superhuman children to rule the world.
Yeah. Which is too bad. But we do get Dr. Marling's, like, one sentence synopsis of, yeah, these babies are going to take over the world type of speech at the end. And, oh, by the way, we no longer need you mothers to do this because we have this incubating pen back in this back room. And you see all these pods of, like...
babies growing.
Yeah. Like, abyss tubes or whatever. Baby balloons basically is what they are.
Just sacks.
Filled with fluids and growing monsters. And that, gets to a nice, fun, climactic scene.
But, okay, yeah, before all that...
Oh, yeah, we were talking about the abortion clinic. I don't know if that's what we're going back to.
You do, like, trigger warning for any of this.
Yeah. Consider this that.
So, yeah, Virginia is just to the point where she's figuring all of this stuff out. And that's where she lashes out that one night because her husband is gone. She finds out that Beth is dead. Well, she's missing because she doesn't know that Beth is dead yet. And then her mom is coming to visit her for this TV spot for her book.
Right.
Deal.
Yeah, the mom comes in to visit.
And, the next day she wakes up. Well, her mom comes in and the house is, like, ransacked. And the mom is not super alarmed. She's just like, where are you? Type of thing. And Virginia's laying in this, like, pile of, like, clothes, like, strewn about the house or whatever. And her mom is like, what are you doing? Like, she doesn't say, hey, are you okay? Because the house is literally, like, turned upside down. Yeah. She doesn't say, oh, what happened? Are you okay? Is the baby okay? Like, she just, like, what are you doing on the floor? Yeah. Sleeping there. Yeah. And then that's when Virginia is like, oh, what time is it? And it's like 8:30 in the morning, I guess.
I gotta get to my TV show.
She's like, oh, I gotta get on my TV show. And then they show, the TV. It cuts to, like, the scene where the... I guess the host of the TV show, she's just like, where the fuck is that bitch? Blah. Yeah. That type of stuff.
Yeah, typical stereotype,
the stereotype of, like, nice on screen, but, like, bitchy off screen type thing. And Virginia just kind of runs in all frantically, and then, they start her little segment, and... the TV host is just, trying to talk about her book, and Virginia's kind of just sitting there.
Yeah, and it's shot very weirdly, too. I just want to say that, because we're seeing a long shot of a TV on the show floor, like on the stage. And then behind the TV, you can see them...
on the stage.
On the couch, on the stage.
So you're watching the TV.
You can't see any of it very clearly.
Yeah, you're watching the TV watch them.
But you can't even really see the TV monitor. Very clearly because it's so far away. But yeah, exactly. So she's just sort of like sitting there.
Like, not really saying anything, staring off into space. And then the woman's trying to talk about her book. And then she's like, okay, well, you're pregnant now. And that's when Virginia's like, yeah, it's like hell. Yeah. And then, the TV...
this is not my baby. This is a creature inside
And then the TV host, she's like, oh, yeah, when I was pregnant, I felt like... she's trying to lighten the mood. But then that's when Virginia just kind of cuts her off. And she's like, that's when...
It's like the brain again.
Yeah, but her stomach starts bleeding, though.
Mainstream
like,
movie.
the stomach...
Oh, yeah, she starts to burst a little bit.
So that's what I was like... What, is she gonna die? Or is the baby coming out? Like, why is... It's only her stomach is bleeding. It's not, like, going down her legs or anything. Right. It's like... That's where I was confused.
Yeah, the baby's, like, attacking her or something.
From the inside?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
Like, don't talk bad about it. Don't, give up the plan. And so I'm gonna make you bleed.
Like, punching her or something? Like, beating her up from within. And she's bleeding. And then she kind of, like, passes out. But then that's the end. I wish there was
more to the special effects. Or more, like,
more gore or something.
Show the point of view of the baby or something. You know what I mean? Like, give us a better clue as to what's going on. I don't know.
Yeah, I was like, is she giving birth right then and there, but then because then she wants to go to the abortion clinic.
Well, no, she gets taken to the hospital first at that time. And that's when she sees Beth in the coma, and she uncovers her and sees the, giant alien creature thing that's basically like an open...
Yeah, it's like her open...
unit, whatever you want to call it.
Womb is, like, exposed. Yeah. It's just like that amniotic sac glowing, sort of, and you can see the baby growing in it, or whatever.
But yeah, then she escapes. Tries calling she escapes from the hospital after seeing that. Not hospital. It's Dr. Meierling's clinic.
It's like they don't take her to the closest ER.
Right.
They just take her straight to her doctor.
Exactly.
And they knew who her doctor was?
Yeah. I mean, maybe the mom told them because she was there at the TV appearance
or
something.
But yeah. I mean, did they say where they live?
Like what city? I don't remember now.
Oh, okay. But anyways, they live in a city. They can go to the nearest hospital.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably, if we knew what the call letters were of the TV station, that's probably, they probably mentioned it that way. But yeah, movie logic again.
Yeah.
But anyway, she escapes, and then instead of trying to call the cops or another doctor or whatever, she calls Connie Chicago, who is, we learn, being attacked by her partner.
Right.
And killed at that point. So, Gloria Starchild. And then after that, that's when she goes for the abortion stuff.
Yeah, but she goes to Connie Chicago's apartment to go see what happened. Right?
I don't remember that. I think we just see it on screen.
Okay, I thought she went to go to her apartment, and that's when the cops came and escorted her back home. Because her mom...
Could be. There's a lot of things the movie was going so slow, and then it starts to get a lot faster.
It escalates, and this is like...
And
is
we're
this
trying to take notes while we're watching,
right.
So I could have easily missed that.
But I don't know, this is like a 1991 thing that we're seeing. It's like all these movies are so slow, and then the last 20 minutes, it's like chaos happens.
Yeah.
And everything happens in 20 minutes.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the abortion again. Oh, God.
But then, she's like, I want this thing out of me. This is not my baby. And that's when she goes to a clinic, but the clinic is like, no, you're too far along. You're in your third trimester. But then that's when you said, she's like, no, I shouldn't be.
Right.
But then they don't explain about...
They're just like,
the babies
we could refer
rapidly growing inside them.
Yeah. And also, the clinic, I think, says something about we can refer you to somebody to get you treatment for the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And she, denies that. She's like, meh, and she meets up with this guy who's, in the hallway saying, hey, I can do it for $50 or,
it was like $500. She's like, if you have $500, I can help you out. And then they go into this basement of this random building.
Mm-hmm.
And this is scary. And then I guess they just perform the abortion. They don't even, I don't know. They don't show it. It's just...
The only reason we know it's been done is because at some point
she comes back home and she has a flat stomach immediately.
And the husband goes to the dumpster behind the clinic and retrieves the baby.
No.
Well, who does?
She does, because...
Oh, she does?
She comes home...
Oh, no, yeah, it must have been her.
She comes home, and then her mom is already home.
Yeah.
But I thought her mom went... Because her mom went with her to the first clinic.
I just don't know why she went back to the dumpster.
Because the baby was crying. She heard the baby crying. Oh, she heard the baby
crying in her mind, and it beckoned her.
This is where I started thinking...
See, all kinds of crazy stuff happens at the end of this movie.
This is where I started thinking, okay, is this you haven't seen this, but is this Eraserhead? Because in Eraserhead, the baby is just crying. And it's that same type of crying throughout the movie. I'm like, oh, is this Eraserhead all of a sudden? But then
it was getting weird because they had like that guy with like missing limbs on a skateboard just randomly going down the alley on his
she's
stomach.
Following the crying noise of the baby.
I'm just saying there's like, all of a sudden here's some
like homeless guy on a skateboard
who's like missing limbs. Arms and legs and stuff. Yeah. It's just weird stuff.
But I was like, did they call David Lynch and he gave them like a 5-minute segment? Like, I don't know. I was like, what is going on here?
They could have been inspired. Like, who knows?
I mean, yeah. Also the dumpster thing too. I don't know.
But yeah.
So she hears the baby crying in the dumpster from where she had the abortion from these random guys, and they don't show the baby, but all of a sudden she's like digging through garbage, and then all of a sudden something jumps out at her. You don't really see it.
Mm-hmm. And then
then cuts to her sitting in a chair, and then that's when her husband comes home.
Yeah. And that's when we finally get to see the baby.
I was waiting. I was like, is it gonna look like the baby in Eraserhead? 'Cause no.
It looks like Quado from Total Recall.
It looks like that, but then also kind of like Freddy Krueger when he was a baby.
Yeah, that's true too.
'Cause it makes like this demon face. It's his.
Yeah.
It's I don't know if it's his or her, I don't know. Its eyes are red and it's just like frowning or whatever.
Yeah, it's a very creepy looking baby.
Yeah, Quado / Freddy Krueger baby.
And it's pretty funny, to be honest. Like, this movie,
it gets like so weird. And then it ends like weirdly.
It's so wacky and crazy that like it goes from being super slow to super crazy, but all the craziness was just funny. It wasn't.
No, yeah, and then it's also not really scary at all. It's just
and the effects
weird.
are also not very good. Almost everything that happens in this is like a woman's stomach having something done to it, right? Bursting, or when she's like writing the shapes and the stomach is tracing the shapes from the inside. I didn't
understand that either, because it was just like triangle, circle, square.
I think it was supposed to be making you think that it could have some alien in it or something. Like it's some secret language that...
Or like the baby is already smart enough that it knows shapes already, like within her womb.
Or just to show that there's this mental connection, but why the shapes they don't explain. Right? That
was weird to me.
Yeah.
Everything's weird to me in this movie.
It's all stomach based and it all looks extremely fake. And then the baby looks grotesque and, very basic. I mean, honestly, some of the effects that we saw in The Terror Within 2, a different Roger Corman movie, were a little bit better than this. I think.
Maybe.
At least like on the makeup and the gore side of things. But yeah, it's just such a weird thing. I think the coolest part was at the end when you have like all those, baby balloons or cocoons or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, that was the most,
when they'll start to,
I don't know, creepy part.
Explode and whatnot.
Yeah.
That was probably the coolest part. And then, like, the very end.
The very end just ended. And
well,
then I was
it
like,
ends
what?
that, like, Virginia's mom is driving them back from wherever... Or they're driving them to somewhere.
Because that's when Virginia she goes to Meyerling's office and she confronts him about this whole thing. And that's when he confesses, yeah, I want to make this, better race for our children, blah. And then he's like, I don't even need mothers anymore. And then he shows her that room. She has a gun.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, don't kill the babies. But she kills him first. And then starts shooting some of the babies. And then some of the babies' wombs, like, fall on this guy's face. Like, you see, like... That's probably, like,
she shoots, like, the power supply or something like that.
Yeah, the grossest thing. You see, like, just this...
Yeah, bunch of guts and whatnot.
Yeah, mucus and, like, whatever falling all over him. But that was the end of that scene. It was like, okay, he's dead. And some of these babies that are growing are dead. But not all of them are.
Yeah, but I mean, like...
She cuts the supply off, so maybe they will die?
Exactly, yeah. Like, the overall terror is over, right? Like,
Right.
The mastermind is dead. All of these things are gone.
And then we're going back and forth. So when the husband comes home from his trip, sees her in the chair. She's breastfeeding the baby. He sees the baby. He freaks out. He's like, ugh, not that.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden the baby takes a knife or something sharp.
No, one of the knitting needles that the mom sent.
Okay, she's knitting.
Well, I mean,
just a knitting needle.
Yeah, there's a thing at the very beginning of the movie. It's like, oh, well, what are you gonna do when you're a mother or whatever? And
here, knit
Virginia's
a blanket.
mom had sent her yarn and knitting needles.
And then the dad reacts to the baby. He's like, ew, not this, basically.
Right.
And then the baby just takes a knitting needle and jabs it in the guy's eye, and he's dead.
We assume, yeah.
Yeah. And
but I don't know why they're driving in the car.
Yeah.
But they're driving in a car. The mom's driving in a car after
I think
shooting.
they're escaping the baby because they don't know the baby's in the car.
Right.
But the baby is in the car. And
yes,
then
the baby is under the pedals.
Yes.
Somehow under the pedals.
Yeah, the mom is driving because Virginia is just too out of it. And the baby's in the pedals, starts messing around with her feet, I guess. And then the mom is driving but also trying to stop the baby or something.
And then it crashes and
they
flips.
They crash and the car flips over, and then I don't know, I guess the mom is dead, but Virginia is not, and the baby is not.
No, because we see the baby trying to crawl on some rocks, and then Virginia's like, it's okay.
And then the end, and then the end of the movie. And I was like, but what? But the way it ends, it's kind of like the sun is set. It's very red.
Yeah.
The sun is setting. It looks as if it's on fire. The world's on fire. Is that just
I think it's supposed to be
foreshadowing
daybreak or something. Yeah, I don't know. Because there is a sequel to this movie, which we did not watch. It was released in 94, I think it was.
That's weird.
So, I mean, there is a sequel to this. As far as I know...
It's just her consoling the demon baby, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think Virginia is in it. I don't think Brooke Adams is making a return appearance, but... Yeah, it's a very weird thing. It's a slow build.
But the last 20 minutes are just...
It's frantic and it's funny and it's actually pretty fun, but yeah, none of it really makes much sense at all.
Yeah.
So should we talk a little bit about the cast and crew?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we got Rodman Flender, who did the directing. This is his directorial debut. He went on to do a movie called In the Heat of Passion, which also had Lisa Kudrow in it. He did Leprechaun 2. He did Idle Hands. He did TV such as Tales from the Crypt, Party of Five, Arliss. He's also done a couple episodes of The Office. And he's also a producer on Slumber Party Massacre 3. I always want to try to mention that series when I can. He's also the uncle of Timothée Chalamet, which is weird. The writing was credited under Henry Dominic, but it's actually two people. John Brancato and Michael Ferris, who frequently work together. They do... they'll be in the 1991 movies Flight of the Black Angel, Femme Fatale, Mind Warp, and Into the Sun. So they have 5 movies in 1991 that we'll see eventually. They also went on to do things like The Net, The Game, Terminator 3, Terminator Salvation, and also Catwoman, which got
all of those movies are
Terminator
hard.
3 is not bad. The Net's fun. The Game I really like, actually. And then Michael Ferris went on to do some solo work as a writer for The Simpsons pretty recently, and also he has an Emmy nomination for writing for Rugrats. So I would have loved to see a Rugrats episode based off of The Unborn. See how that worked out. But yeah, same guy who did Rugrats did The Unborn. Also on the technical side, we got Wally Pfister doing the cinematography. I only mention him because second week in a row we have a Roger Corman movie with an Oscar-winning cinematographer doing an early movie.
crazy.
So Wally Pfister went on to win an Oscar for Inception. He was also nominated for Batman Begins, The Prestige, and The Dark Knight. So, as you can tell, he's basically Christopher Nolan's go-to guy for cinematography.
It's so interesting. I don't know. I'm flabbergasted by this.
Yeah, I don't.
Because it's like
you don't see it in these movies.
Yeah, the cinematography for Terror Within 2, where the guy goes off to do
Janusz Kaminski, yeah.
Yeah, he starts to do
all
like
the Spielberg stuff.
Yeah, Spielberg stuff, and then you have this guy that's doing all the Christopher Nolan stuff.
Yeah.
Like going on to big directors, and then you don't see any of this work.
No, like at least
and
like
then you wonder like what did they do in the past couple of years to get to be so great at it? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like when we watched Cuarón's movie.
Yeah, you can tell that's great
there's,
cinematography.
Exactly. There's like legitimately good camera work and cinematography.
Even
there.
like for Europa, automatically.
Well, that was a well-established director, but yeah, Lars von Trier was,
he was already okay.
Yeah. Wally Pfister went to school with Janusz, who did Terror Within 2, and they're kind of a grouping of friends that went on to help Roger Corman with their productions and stuff like that. It's like sort of a thing. But I found a quote on IMDb from Wally Pfister about The Unborn, and he said that the first movie that I shot as cinematographer was called The Unborn. It was a horror movie. I had something I wanted to try with color and light, but it's ghastly. At the same time, I cut myself slack because my creative reach went beyond my skill level. That's a really important thing to note. I had great ideas, but if you don't have the skill level, you're never going to master the artistry. That's where I was early on, and I needed to put the hard work in and slowly work my way up. So I don't know what he was trying to do with color and light in that movie at all.
Except for maybe at the very end with the red back, like the backdrop was so red it looked like the sun was like on fire. That's why I was like, is this alluding to what's going to happen in the second movie or something? I don't know.
I'm not sure. So that's that. So we have Oscar winners in this thing. Also, we have, Grammy. I'm assuming Grammy winners. I actually didn't look this up, but the score was done by Gary Newman and Michael R. Smith. We didn't talk about the score, but I actually really liked the score.
Oh yeah.
It was, when you think of Gary Newman, you think of like synth stuff. Oh yeah, Cam, like from Pieces. This is synth, and it's also very moody, not overbearing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the music.
It's really good, and Gary Newman really did virtually no scores at all,
except for this.
Yeah, I mean honestly, he really did like this and like a documentary in 2008, and then I think like one other movie that really wasn't a big budget thing, or like wasn't even an indie, whatever. It's a very low in the totem pole, whatever type of a production, and that was it, which is weird, but he doesn't need it. He has a very successful career. He doesn't need.
But he could have gone along the ways of like
Trent Reznor.
Yeah, Trent Reznor.
Or,
like
who's the guy from Papa Lead itself? I can't remember his name. Clint Mansell.
Yeah.
He could have. Yeah, he could have been that way, but maybe he just doesn't enjoy the composing side of music making, like for other people. Who knows? But yeah, they did the music, and it's actually a really good score. Talking about the cast, Brooke Adams, Virginia Marshall, she was a Saturn nominee. We're going to talk about the Saturn Awards. We haven't really talked about that before, but it's basically the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films. Their award is the Saturn. This movie was nominated for Best Genre Video Release, but it lost to a movie called Soul Taker, which is actually from 1990. Or either 92. There's like a weird span of 3 years that this particular awards show covered. Brooke Adams was nominated for Invasion of the Body Snatchers. She also has a Spirit nomination for Gas Food Lodging in 1992. She's been in The Dead Zone, Almost You, Cuba, Days of Heaven, and she's also in the 1991 movie Sometimes They Come Back. So we'll see her again. She will come back in that Stephen King inspired movie. She's also been on the TV show Monk, where she's played 4 different characters throughout the course of that series, and that's because she's married to Tony Shalhoub.
I've never watched Monk. But
I've never watched Monk either.
I remember her, okay, because I was like, I know this woman, and she's in the Babysitters Club movie.
Oh, okay.
And that's where I was like, I was looking at the credits. I'm like, where do I know this woman? And then I was like, oh, the Babysitters Club movie.
But yeah, she actually had a pretty good career up until, I mean, I'm not saying that she doesn't have a career in 1991, but I'm saying, like, she was well established for a good 15 years before this movie came out. So
I was just like, I know this face.
Her husband, Jeff Hyenga, just for the fact that I can't pronounce his name tells you how prominent he is. He was in Other People's Money as a person named Klein. I don't know who that is. Do not remember that movie well enough to know who
Probably
that was.
just one of the businessmen.
Yeah, maybe. Or like one of the lawyers or something like that in the
So
room.
he just played a lawyer.
Probably. Otherwise, he's done a bunch of TV one-off appearances, and he also wrote 2 episodes of the soap Another World. So it was weird to see that he also was a writer for that as opposed to just acting. James Karen, who played Dr. Richard Meyerling, is probably best known to some as the spokesman for Pathmark Supermarkets. I don't know where Pathmark Supermarkets are, but he was the voice of that chain for about 30 years, 3 decades. But otherwise, in terms of acting, he has done quite a bit. He is also a Saturn nominee for Return of the Living Dead. He's in the 1991 movie Spirit of the Eagle, Absolute Strangers, Lies Before Kisses, and also in 1991 he was in MathNet on Square One Television, which I also like to mention whenever I can. But he actually does have quite an extensive career, just nothing that I personally know all that much. Kate Callan played the mother, Martha. She's also in Flight of Black Angel, written by John Brancato and Michael Ferris. She was probably best known for her role as Martha Kent, Clark Kent's mother in the Lois and Clark series that starred Dean Cain and what's her face? I can't remember her name. Terry Hatcher. I wanted to say something else.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's how she's probably best known to a lot of people. She's also on Meet the Browns and Carnival, and she also was one of the many people in Knives Out. What else we got? We already talked about Kathy Griffin. Everyone knows who Kathy Griffin is, I think, at this point. We talked about Lisa Kudrow as well. One thing I will mention is that Lisa Kudrow does have an MTV movie nomination, or MTV Awards nomination. Out of this group, she's the only one that does, and that's for Best Dance Sequence for Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion.
Okay.
But lost to Austin Powers 1, unfortunately.
I like that dancing in Romeo and Michelle.
Yeah. The housekeeper that the DeWitts berated. Mm-hmm. We've seen her before. She was Carlos's mom in Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare.
Ah, okay.
But she'll also be in a couple other movies. The Fires Within, Big Girls Don't Cry, They Get Even. And also, she's supposedly the mother of the Bad Religion drummer Bobby Shayer. So that's weird.
Yeah.
And that's really about it. I mean, there's quite a few characters. Some that we've seen. Brad Blaisdell we saw last week in Terror Within 2. He played Bo, who lured what's his face into the brush to try to kill the lead character in that, and he's back as just a mild-mannered newspaper reporter. He's like, oh, I'll go try to find Beth. So
yeah, and that was that.
That was
with
that
guy.
That's all he is. But yeah, that's the casting crew. A bunch of comedians, a bunch of stand-ups, and then a bunch of other random people who just converged to make this.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of awards that we haven't talked about, just on the movie level, we talked about the Saturn nominee. Also the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards. There were a few nominations, but no wins. Actress Brooke Adams was nominated, but lost to Jodie Foster. Supporting actor for James Karen, but he lost to Brad Dourif, who won for the movie Body Parts, which will come at some point in the future on the podcast, probably. And then it was also nominated for Best Independent or Low Budget Film, but that lost to The Bride of Reanimator, which is not 1991. It is 1990, I believe. Couple nominees, but no awards. But at least successful enough to get a sequel. It made about
I think I saw
$1.1 million in the box office.
It made one, but do you know how much the budget was?
I do not have budget info. No, the opening weekend was quoted as being about $180,000, so it had a pretty limited release, I would guess.
Okay.
It was probably, Roger Corman. They're not known for putting things out into a mass market for cinemas. It's mostly like a direct-to-video type of a thing for the vast majority of their productions. So limited release and then off to home video where it got a sequel. So on to true crime and pop culture.
Yep, so I don't have anything true crime this time. So I'm just going to go straight into music, and then we can talk a little bit about TV. So for the 100 chart, the top 5 songs as of March 30th, 1991, the first number 1 is Coming Out of the Dark by Gloria Estefan. And this was, the song that came out right after her bus accident. Do you remember that?
I remember the bus accident. I don't remember the song.
Oh, this was it, Coming Out of the Dark.
Well, I understand, but I don't know. I don't know it by name.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Oh, I know this song because I just know a lot of adult contemporary songs from this time.
Your time working at grocery stores. Yes,
and I know. For some reason, I know the reasons why. I don't know. Maybe watching pop-up video. Who knows? And then number 2 was One More Try by Timmy T. I know that song. You probably won't.
It doesn't sound familiar.
It's a freestyle song. That's another, we haven't really got into, talking about freestyle, but, freestyle is, huge around this time.
Yeah, when I think freestyle rap, which is not.
No, freestyle.
Not the genre of music.
I kind of wanted to do I always think about what can I do as a mini episode, and then I thought about doing freestyle, but I don't know the history of it, because to me, I grew up listening to this type of music, and I always thought of it as roller skating music, because it's that type of music.
Yeah.
And I used to go roller skating a lot around this time.
So you heard a lot of Timmy T.
Yes.
Yeah.
And number 3 is This House by Tracy Spencer, which, we're going to put all this on the website. Mm-hmm. Number 4 is Hold You Tight by Tara Kemp. And number 5 is I've Been Thinking About You by London Beat.
I at least know that one by name.
Yeah. And then, can't remember, a week or 2 ago, and we were maybe talking about popcorn.
Mm-hmm.
When I was trying to look up, the Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah. Because I think that was right after the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah, popcorn
was
came out right after a few days after the Super Bowl, where Whitney Houston's famous Star Spangled Banner became a sensation.
Yeah.
And, I forgot what other I forgot the other episode where it was number 98.
Right.
Now it's as of March 30th, 1991. It was number 20 on the charts.
Wow. So yeah, I think
I'm gonna do a tracker. I'm gonna track it to see when it became first week. So this is probably, it doesn't say some of them say 3 weeks on the charts, right. But this just says number 20, and it's risen so far. Okay, moving on to TV. March 29th was a Friday. And, it's the typical TGIF lineup. And then a lot of the TV we've talked about already. So on CBS was Guns of Paradise, which we've talked about. That Western.
You're right.
After that was Dallas, and then after that was a show called True Detectives, not True Detective.
Okay.
Do you know anything about this, or have you heard of it?
No, not at all.
Me neither. And I I just found like a tiny little thing. It's a reality-based TV series where real and amateur detectives present some of their toughest cases through dramatic reenactments and interviews with actual eyewitnesses. So it was kind of like... That would have
been my guess. It was like Unsolved Mysteries or like America's Most Wanted type of a deal.
Yeah. It sounds very interesting. But the host of that show was Gregory Harrison, who played Bill in Bare Essentials. I was like, oh, this guy. I was like, this guy's the host?
The least known movie that we've covered so far.
Right. He's the host of this.
Yeah.
I just thought that was very interesting.
I didn't notice that when I was pulling my credits together, but I usually don't look at the self section on IMDb where they put themselves. Yeah. That's where all the hosting stuff is.
And then, I mean, on Fox was America's Most Wanted, and the show Against the Law. We talked about that too, about... It was, you know, obviously a lawyer show, and it had Michael O'Keefe from Roseanne in it.
Yeah, that came up, I think, in the Popcorn episode too, possibly.
Yeah, because I think Popcorn was
only a couple weeks later, yeah.
Well, it's like a month and a half. Popcorn's February, and this is just, you know, a month later.
Yeah.
And then that was it for TV. But then we did look up a Johnny Carson episode that was released February
21st, 1991.
Because Brooke Adams was a guest on it, and she was talking about this movie. But
Among others.
Yeah, other movies that she was in too. But she barely talked about this movie.
Yeah, they talked about her history a little bit, and they also talked about how she had just done 3 movies back to back. And it was like The Unborn, and when she gave the description of the movie, like the audience just laughed at how ridiculous the concept was. And then she talked about Sometimes They Come Back was the next one that she did, and then she talked about a third one which she did not name.
But it's gas food lodging,
but she was based off the description as gas food lodging.
She probably didn't know. Yeah, she probably didn't know the name of it yet because it was probably in production at that point. I don't know, or they probably didn't even have a name for it.
Yeah, either that or the conversation kind of just took a turn.
Yeah, because she's like, I play a mother and I have 2 daughters, and then like it went into something else.
Yeah. So that's that.
Yeah, and then, but it was mostly Johnny Carson talking about how, like, why do you do horror movies?
Right.
Like, do you choose them or what?
And I think that she did okay. I mean, it seemed like the interview with her was a little condescending to me.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I see these older interviews with, like, any late night host talking to like any woman, it's just so cringy. It's like, why are you in movies, period? Like, shouldn't you be at home being a mom type of thing?
Yeah, it wasn't that severe in this particular instance.
But he's just like, why do you do horror?
Right. It was less about talking with her and is more like weird questions.
Just asking questions like, why
putting her on the defensive a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, she probably gets a lot of horror movies for the same reason for other people. That's what she got her start in, and that's what she said is like, I started with this movie. I forget the name of it offhand, and I didn't write it down, but it's something of a cult movie from the 70s. Shockwaves. There you go.
Because it was about like zombie Nazis or something like Nazis. Yeah,
Nazi zombies with Nazi zombies.
And they're joking about that. And the other guest is Jerry Seinfeld. Because, Jerry Seinfeld is, he's like, well, what's scarier than a Nazi? I don't know, like zombie Nazis,
Yeah, he's like, uh-oh, hate when that happens, type of stuff. And Jerry's there to promote the start of his show, right? It's the very beginning of Seinfeld coming pretty soon?
Yeah, I mean, Seinfeld was released in 1989, so, I mean, it's like in its 2nd season at this point.
Oh, they made it sound like it was just starting.
I mean, it's probably was just starting to get good. I know the first season is really not that great. It's just kind of there. But, I mean, 2nd season, it's just, like how, even like The Office or,
Yeah, it always takes a little bit to warm up.
Like 1 season. Or even Parks and Rec. Because Parks and Rec, we watched the first season, we're like, this sucks. Yeah. But then after season 2 on, it's great. So, I don't know. I think maybe that's what it was.
It could be. And then the third guest we didn't get to see in the episode that we have is like Rod McQuarrie and Colin Sweeten, who were cowboy poets. That the episode.
Yeah, I wanted to see these cowboy poets, but no.
They didn't
well, I mean, in the beginning of the show, he is doing like reviews of kids' toys.
Yeah, the toy fair had just happened, or like some expo,
with new toys coming out for kids.
Yeah.
So he wanted to try them out.
Yep. So yeah, this episode had like the full monologue and everything, and then before the guests, it was this toy fair segment where you
and then some of these toys were, I don't think I have any of them. One of them was the grasshopper, grabbing grasshoppers. I think that's the one that I know them. A lot of these toys are just like pieces that will things that will fall apart into a million pieces, and it's like I know these things will get lost after one play. Like even the grab and grasshoppers game. These things will
depending on the child
be lost.
Yeah. But yeah, a couple of these things I don't think were ever actually released, but some of them were definitely in the market. Like grabbing grasshoppers, where you basically press a whole bunch of grasshoppers down, and then there's like a mechanical time release type of a thing that happens, and they'll jump up, and you're supposed to catch them in your net.
Right.
And whoever catches the most wins. So a simple kids game. The first thing that they showed was the hog holler game. I don't think that ever released.
No, it was just like you screaming "Suey" inside this little.
They have these yellow tubes
thing, but it's mostly
attached to like a game board, and you have these little plastic pieces or something inside the game board, and you have to call the hogs on the game board
saying "Suey,"
and try to get them to the center. And I think the overall concept of it, mechanically, is that the vibrations of your mouth or the sound that's coming through this tube will rattle the underside of the board and put the piece to the center along the path. I think that's the general
But I'm
gist
thinking,
of how it's supposed to work.
it probably was never made because all these kids' mouths on things. I don't know.
It didn't look like it was
It was like a
functioning
sanitary thing.
It was very much in a prototype look.
Yeah.
And having that be the first thing they showed made it seem like all of these other things were going to be pure jokes and not real products.
Right,
but some of them were.
Yeah.
Another one that was fake, I think, or at least did not likely come out, is one called, I think they called it Bow Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Where you have this dog's head and legs, and in the middle is like a dog house replacing its torso, and you're supposed to reach in and try to grab the bones without making him bark. So it's sort of like Operation,
right? You have to be
except with a human hand instead of tweezers or something.
Right.
And so if you touch the sides or if you make too much motion or something like that,
if you do it too quickly, it's gonna bark. But I mean, that seems kind of
the design of it was bad. Pulling a bone out of
because what kid is gonna be like, I don't care if this dog barks at me, I'm just gonna fucking take the bone out immediately.
Yeah, I just meant I don't know, you're going into this area that it's basically its crotch. Yeah, and you're pulling out a bone.
Right.
That's the design of the product.
Yeah, it's weird.
Who cares about the gameplay? It just visually, it's kind of awkward.
Yeah, you're you're grabbing a bone.
Yes.
Out of a dog's crotch.
Yes. So that one I don't think exists.
But the other one was, they're called wall bangers, these cars that you just bang against the wall and it makes crashing sounds. Yeah. I feel like that was real because I feel like someone real. I knew had them.
Yeah. Saxophone, I think, also might have existed. I didn't really find proof of it.
Yeah.
But basically, it's just a saxophone, toy saxophone, where you can
blow bubbles.
Make music if you want to, and it blows bubbles out the end of it. And then the last one was another one that does exist.
Yeah.
Snapshot.
Oh, I thought you meant that baby bottle one, because that also.
Oh, that was one. Yeah, I didn't write that one down.
It was just, a bottle that had 3 settings, and, one of them is a baby crying, and when you feed the baby, it could either burp or it makes cooing sounds.
Yeah.
Which I feel like
I don't remember what
they've
that was
escalated.
called, but it does exist.
I think it was just called Magic Baby Bottle.
Maybe. There's so many evolutions of dolls around that time.
Drinking from bottles.
Yeah, or and color change diapers and putting makeup on your dolls by using hot and cold water. Yeah. All kinds of stuff like that was gimmicky in that. And then Susie Snapshot was the gimmicky doll where you use like a flash camera, which basically just creates a flash of light, and then they'll make the baby doll dance.
Yeah, but it's kind of like posing for the camera.
Yeah.
Sort of.
So, that's what they showed.
Yeah.
It was a nice little memory because it's really tough to get a sense as to when things release in terms of like board games or non-television entertainment. So it's tougher for us to cover that pop culture. So the fact that Johnny Carson helped us do that, that was kind of fun. So on to rankings and ratings we go. On your 1 to 5 star scale, where would you put The Unborn?
Right, I'm just gonna give this a 1 as well.
Okay.
I kind of enjoyed it more than Terror Within 2.
I definitely did.
And I would put this above it, but I don't know if I want to watch the sequel.
I don't know. I'm not dying to see the sequel, but like reading the description of the sequel makes me a little bit more intrigued. So, yeah.
Do kind of wish that
if there were recurring characters.
Yeah, like if Brooke Adams came back.
Yeah, let's get
she probably was
Lisa
like,
Krelm in this.
Yeah, right. Yeah, what happened to Lisa Krelm? What happened to his assistant / receptionist? Yeah, if Brooke Adams was probably like, no thanks, I don't want to do one. But I just want to know what happens to her and her baby.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to find out. I mean, maybe they'll say something at the very beginning. Anyway, on my 0 to 4 star scale, I'd probably rank this as a 1.5. When it gets going, it's fun.
Yeah.
And when it's not going very well, at least some of the dialogue is more like natural and interesting, but you're waiting for it to get going. So because the last half is so funny and like what I like in goofy, campy horror movies, that's why I'm giving it such a higher rating. Everything's worth watching once. Would you watch this again?
No.
Yeah, I would not either. There's too much dead space that it's not worth revisiting. If it was all cylinders all the time and you have like babies running around and doing
messed up
wacky
stuff going on all throughout the entire movie, sure, but
and that's where I think the sequel might be better. Right, because you have this world sort of established, and the whole concept is this woman's out there trying to destroy the existing babies. So, I mean, maybe that would be fun, but this one, no, you can skip watching it a second time. If you out there want to watch The Unborn, as of this recording in October 2021, it's available on Tubi, digital rental, VHS, DVD. As always, check your local listings. As for us, you can listen to us on all of your major podcasting platforms. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, and tell your friends. It really does help us out a lot. You can email us at 1991movierewind@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Letterboxd. Just search 1991 Movie Rewind or go to 1991movierewind.com for the full list of movies, along with show notes and more. Next week, we're done with Halloween. We're done with Horror Month, so we're going into Food Month for November, starting with Fried Green Tomatoes. That's available on IMDb TV, digital rental, VHS, DVD. We will see you then.
Thanks.